welcome to the Park2Park Podcast, to the season 1 finale of the Park2Park Podcast.
Woohoo!
Woohoo, indeed. We've been comparing theme park offerings from coast to coast for 9 whole episodes now. Thank you for sticking around through episode 10. We don't always see eye to eye, but in the end, we'll try. And honestly, we do see eye to eye on most things. I am your lovely host, Alli, and I am joined by my also lovely co-host, CJ. How are you tonight?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
Good. I'm excited to record this episode.
Same. Let's get into it.
This episode, we are going to be recapping our season, filling you in on some things that we may have failed to mention before, and talking to some special guests.
Yeah.
So throughout this season, we have learned a couple of things. We've learned that CJ is a historian and she really likes living in Florida.
Yeah, and we learned that Alli is a thrill seeker, but she won't do straight up and down rides. So no Tower of Terror, no Guardians of the Galaxy.
Nope, can't do it.
No. But Question, do you do the swinging gondolas on Mickey's Fun Wheel?
Oh my God, no. Those are a nightmare.
Okay, so you don't, what's it called now? It has a new name. Pixar Pal Around is what it's called now.
Yeah,
so you don't do that.
Honestly, I don't even do the stationary cards because I don't like heights.
Okay,
and
so
when
that's
you're
really
when
what
you're
it is.
when you're around at the top of the Ferris wheel and they have to stop you because they're loading people and you're at the very top, I would much rather be on the ground.
Okay, so no Tower of Terror, no Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, no Pixar Pal Around, and no, I forgot what that slide is called at Blizzard Beach.
Oh, the one that we haven't done?
That Mom thinks we did? Yeah, no, neither of us have done that. I don't think we ever will. Okay, so that's what we learned episode 1. Let's move on to episode 2 because we had a pretty extensive conversation before we pressed the record button here. This episode was about Walt Disney World and Disneyland Resort as vacation destinations. So why don't you give a quick recap of what we decided for this episode? Who was the winner?
Yeah, for this episode, we saw eye to eye. We agreed that Walt Disney World Resort, the overarching resort area encompassing all of the theme parks in Disney Springs, was a better vacation destination than the overarching Disneyland Resort area encompassing all of the theme parks in downtown Disney.
Right. And we were kind of talking about how the way that you vacation at Walt Disney World has changed pretty dramatically over the last few years. Like when I started going in 2014, well, I mean, I went in 2000, but in recent years, I started going again in 2014. And when I started going that year, it was really all inclusive, right? You paid for your vacation and you got your Magic Band included with your stay, and Magical Express was included with your stay, where they pick you up at the airport and they pick up your bags from the airline. You didn't even have to go to the baggage claim area, and you just get on the bus and they take you there and your bags appear in your room. They didn't do any of that anymore, and you have to arrange transportation from the airport now, and you have to pay for it now. You have to pay for Magic Bands now. You used to get 3 free fast passes per day of your visit, and now fast passes don't exist anymore. It's Genie Plus and Lightning Lane, and that costs an additional fee, and not every ride is included in the Lightning Lane system. There's extra costs for certain rides on top of Genie Plus. So a lot of things have become DIY, and it just feels like everything is being nickel and dimed to death. And there were certain times of the year that were more dead than other times of the year. And to lure guests in, they used to do dining plans for free. Like you could dine for free for your entire length of stay. And you used to, everybody who was staying on property used to have access to extra magic hours that would extend to 1 a.m. sometimes during the summer. And that just doesn't exist anymore. And I feel like the way that you vacation at Walt Disney World has changed so much. And if you really dig into the fan community at Walt Disney World, people are not happy with these changes. And the people who maybe are new to vacationing at Walt Disney World, they don't know any different. But the people who have been around for a while, they are not happy with these changes.
And you also mentioned that there's some things coming back to Disneyland that Walt Disney World's guests are kind of like, well, what about us? So the Main Street Electrical, it was just announced that the Main Street Electrical Parade, World of Color, and Fantasmic are coming back to Disneyland and California Adventure.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, okay, it was announced that Fantasmic was going to come back. They said that at the Destination D23 Expo. Main Street Electrical Parade is somewhat of a surprise. Paint the Night has been around at the Disneyland Resort for a while. The status of that is unknown. Is it ever coming back? Nobody knows. World of Color, they've been working on it for a while, so I think everybody assumed it was coming back at some point. But I think the 50th anniversary out here didn't really live up to people's expectations, especially when you compare it to the 50th anniversary at Disneyland and the 60th anniversary at Disneyland. They took away a pretty popular fireworks show at Magic Kingdom and replaced it with something that hasn't really hit the mark for a lot of Walt Disney World fans. And things have just kind of fallen flat here, for lack of a better word. And Genie Plus isn't super popular here. The parks are really crowded here, and then they're nickel and diming on top of that. And so you see all this enthusiasm for things happening at Disneyland, and then you look at what's happening at Disney World with the crowding and and Genie Plus and all these things, and it just feels really negative out here. And it's sad. Like people just aren't as happy as they used to be here.
And so the concerns are valid. I don't want to invalidate anybody's concerns and anybody's feelings, but to me, it feels like, well, for one, Disney World has been reopened a lot longer than Disneyland has been. So that's something to consider here. Another thing is, to me, it sounds like the Disney World side of things is focusing more on what they're not getting versus what they have and what is in the works for them. Like there's no Tron ride coming to Disneyland anytime soon.
No,
The
no.
new Guardians of the Galaxy ride that's opening at Epcot this year, hopefully. The Ratatouille ride that just opened, Finding Nemo, the everything in Pandora, like that's never coming to Disneyland.
Right.
So just to me, it's like focus on all the good that you have instead of, focus on like watering your lawn versus staring at your neighbor's lawn,
Yeah, and you know what? It's weird because I don't want to like toot my own horn here, but I feel like I have an interesting perspective being a Disneyland local going to a Walt Disney World local. I get it. The Disneyland people, they look at Walt Disney World and go, "You guys have a lot. Like you've got Tron, you've got Guardians of the Galaxy, you've got this Ratatouille ride, you have Frozen Ever After, you've got Pandora." Like the list can go on and on and on for everything that Walt Disney World has. And they do have a lot in progress, but I also understand the frustration. The Epcot reworking. If you've been to the front, if you've walked through the gates of Epcot, you've been greeted with construction walls for a couple years now. And like Spaceship Earth was supposed to undergo this massive transformation inside, and that has been axed, status unknown. And there was supposed to be a Mary Poppins attraction coming to the UK Pavilion, status unknown. The Guardians coaster is probably, was probably supposed to open a while ago, and then COVID hit. Tron is taking way too long to be built. There's just a lot of things that are kind of question marks right now. And then you look at Disneyland and they're going full steam ahead with Marvel Land, and they're getting Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and Toontown is being redone. And then they get nighttime entertainment, Main Street Electrical Parade on top of that. And you hear people who have been locals to Walt Disney World or visiting Walt Disney World yearly for however many years. And they're like, we haven't had nighttime entertainment besides fireworks in a really long time. They had Main Street Electrical Parade for a really long time. It's kind of gone back and forth between Disneyland and Magic Kingdom. So they want Main Street Electrical Parade, and Disneyland got Paint the Night, and they're like, why can't we have Paint the Night? Where is Paint the Night? Where in storage is that? Why, if they're gonna get Electrical Parade, why can't we get Paint the Night in the meantime? We ended up with this 50th fireworks show that most people think is subpar to the old fireworks show. What is going on? So I really do understand both sides of it. It's really hard to be surrounded by a lot of people who are really feeling negative about everything that's going on here. But I do, I see your point. There's a lot to be thankful for here. We just have to be patient. And I've said this to a couple of people personally that I chat with online. Like, the economy is totally like breaking the rules of all economies right now. The supply chain is really messed up. The job market is really messed up. Like, everything is going completely cuckoo right now. I think we kind of need to cut them some slack in some ways and understand that I think they want to do some things, but we got to be patient with them. I do think there are some things that they can control and some things that they can't, and we need to cut them some slack for some things that they can't control. And the other thing, Walt Disney World gets run Disney. Disneyland doesn't.
Yeah.
So, man, I know there's a lot of Run Disney people who want the races back in Disneyland so bad.
And just to add to your previous point, there's absolutely a lot going on behind the scenes in Disney that we do not know about and that we'll never know about. There's stuff happening that we are not privy to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, anyways, that was just, there's things at Disney are changing all the time. And I was listening back to the episode about this, and news has come out in the last couple months, and I just thought it was really important to continue the conversation about Walt Disney World Resort versus Disneyland Resort. All right, episode 3, Alli, take it away.
So we agreed that Disneyland has better, or I don't want to say like has better offerings, but we voted Disneyland over Magic Kingdom. CJ and I agreed on that. But we're only 2 people and we wanted to get another opinion. So we brought in a friend and fellow Disney nerd for her opinion. Nicole, welcome to the Park2Park Podcast. How are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you guys?
Great. Things
Doing
are great
well.
over here.
Yeah. So we are going to be talking about Magic Kingdom and Disneyland. But first, I want you to tell us how many times you visited both Walt Disney World and Disneyland. And if you visited a gazillion times, like, me and Alli have been to Disneyland a gazillion times, it's okay. You can just estimate for us.
Yeah, I think I've been to Disneyland at least over 50 times. I was doing
Nice.
quick math before I hopped on.
Nice.
And I've only been to Walt Disney World probably 5 to 7 times. I couldn't exactly remember, so I'm pretty sure it's within that range.
Cool. And when do you think the last time was you visited each coast?
We were just in Disneyland in December.
Oh, for Christmas time, the best time.
Yeah, my daughter is 3, and so we took her we took her once before when she was 1, but it didn't go very well.
Oh, no.
Probably to be expected. And so we took her this time and it went much better. So yes, it was kind of like our Christmas gift to ourselves as our family.
How fun.
And then Walt Disney World was probably my honeymoon.
Okay.
Went there for our honeymoon. So yeah.
Cool.
So about, I don't know, how long we were, 7 years ago.
Cool.
So what is your favorite thing about Disneyland?
I really like, so I like the nostalgia of it for me. Like, I'm a West Coaster, been my whole life. Like, I grew up in the Seattle area, but we used to take road trips as a family down the coast. We took 101 all the way down. We've took I-5 down. And so there's just like there's a nostalgia, like, family element to me. And then I've had so many big moments in Disneyland. Like, my husband proposed to me in front of the castle. We did like our baby announcement there. I had my bachelorette party there. Like, I've had a lot of good memories there. So it just feels special. I also like being the Disney nerd that I am, like, because Walt actually created it. I just think it feels more magical. Like, he was there, like, he walked here. Like, it just feels more special to me. So I would say that for Disneyland, for me, that's kind of, it feels like home to me.
Yeah, I think you're in good company. I mean, I know that I've had a lot of like big moments like that too. My husband proposed at the Wishing Well. I had my bachelorette party there too. And then Alli had some as well.
Yeah, my bachelorette party was there as well. And then my husband proposed to me at the end of the inaugural Star Wars 10K. So
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat about the nostalgia feels and how it feels like home. Because for us that's been our home park too for such a long time. So.
Yeah, you both grow up on the West Coast?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned like the road trip down because we used to take road trips up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, you got two, I also have a sister. So, you get two small girls in the back of a car and you're just like, let's just take a road trip. And it was cheaper. Like my family we didn't have a lot of money growing up. And so like flying, like I don't even think I ever flew until I got into high school. Like it was basically like, how could we get to some place in a car? So,
right.
And California was like the closest beach that was relatively like car friendly. So we always made a stop. It was like, if we drove past it, there was no way we were going to allow our parents to like not stop.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that.
So what about Magic Kingdom? What's your favorite thing about Magic Kingdom?
There's like one like spot in particular. I really like the Beauty and the Beast restaurant. Like I thought when they opened that and the first time I got to go, well, first and only, I guess, was on our honeymoon. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like even when you like walk around the corner, it's kind of tucked away. And then how they like built the castle into such a good perspective into the like hillside. And then you walk in and it just like, it looks so much like Beauty and the Beast. And that was my favorite movie growing up. And you go into the ballroom and my mind was just blown. Like I remember like, are we in the movie? Like I was like 20 in my like late 20s when I first went. And I was just like a kid in a candy store, like, and then, they say like, oh, and we have the gray stuff for dessert. And I was like, what? Like,
yes.
Give me that. Like, I will take that right now. We don't even have to look at the menu. Like, just give me that. That's like I have like versus Disneyland with Magic Kingdom, I have like specific areas that I really enjoy that I can't get at Disneyland. So like the Beauty and the Beast restaurant is one of those. Like it's just so well done that it made me so excited when I saw it.
Yeah, I think I'm like choking on my own spit here. I think that's something that Magic Kingdom does really well that Disneyland doesn't is the themed dining, and Be Our Guest is a really good example of that. Disneyland has great restaurants, but like Be Our Guest, Skipper Canteen, they just like hone in on those really specific themes and like go all out, and Be Our Guest is a really great example of that.
Yeah, it's just it's so perfect. Like everything was just so good.
Yes. Now let's talk about strengths and weaknesses of Disneyland. What are some things you think Disneyland does really, really well?
So I think, and it's shifted a little bit over time, but I think the layout, obviously, of Disneyland is one of my favorite things. I think it's very easy to navigate. I think it's maintainable for people, especially if they haven't been. Like, it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Like, you can kind of walk in any direction and eventually get back to the front. Like,
yes.
Walking, like, it's easy to navigate. So that's, I think, a strength for me. Again, I really just like the original Magic. Like,
yeah,
I think that's a huge plus for me. It just feels differently. And I've argued with people that have grown up on the East Coast about this a lot. But I've converted several East Coasters once I've taken them to Disneyland. They're like, oh, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, I get it now.
It's big. Yeah. And then the train. I think the train at Disneyland is just so much more. My daughter also really loves it, so maybe I'm biased because we just kept on thinking about it, and that's like all she wanted to do. She just wanted to ride on the train. I'm like, well, okay, so I guess we'll just ride on the train around and around all day long. But I just love the train and the like sound it makes it like in the front, and those are some of the things that I really think are strengths of Disneyland.
Yeah, I like the Lily Bell too. I think that's really special, and another piece of Walt that's part of the train that doesn't exist at Walt Disney World. Yeah. Now, what do you think some of the weaknesses are of Disneyland?
So I think for Disneyland, it's space. As actually, when we talk about kind of strengths of Magic Kingdom, I'll talk about this a little bit more too there. But I think it's just so hard for them to do anything additional without taking or removing something. I love I love Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. I think it was so well done. But like, I did love the all-you-can-eat barbecue place. Like,
Yes.
I did love the petting zoo.
Yes.
Like, this would have been perfect for my daughter. Like, and now they don't even have it. Like,
Yeah.
There's things that I still miss. Like, I'm like, those were like nostalgic like things.
Yeah.
And it was a bummer when they took them out. Although I think any Star Wars fan would argue with me that it was well worth it. And I think it's a lovely area. But if there was more space to, move around, if they had the room to expand, then we could get new and additional things without having to constantly kind of retheme things, which I think there's been a lot of controversy in the like Disneyland nerd community of like, you're taking away this like nostalgic thing and replacing it with something else. And I get it, we have to evolve and change, but I want that, like, I want to keep that thing. So I think space for them would be a weakness.
Right. I think Disneyland is somewhat, kind of an untouchable holy grail. Like, you can't touch this because Walt touched it,
Yeah.
And that's both a blessing and a curse in many ways. It limits them. I think you're totally right about that.
Yeah.
I agree, but at the same time, Walt said we have to keep moving forward, and didn't he also say that Disneyland will never be done?
Yeah, but Walt wasn't around when Star Wars was
Yeah.
This is true. Walt did die before Star Wars came out.
I mean, there's a lot of controversy that says like Star Wars shouldn't even be in Disneyland. Like,
That's
there's
right.
like rabbit holes on like
Okay, but
all kinds of other like Disney verse like commentary, like doesn't even belong here, like it should be in California Adventure. If
That's
anything.
right.
Yeah. So there's like whole heated arguments about this.
You know what? I think we're going to get to that in a future season when we talk about the Star Wars stuff, because I have a lot of thoughts.
I really like Star Wars.
No, you do.
It is beautiful. I like have to say, the first time I went there and I walked through, it was like the theming from Frontierland like into Batu was just wild. Like, it was so perfect.
But they got rid of the goats.
Like, I don't know if it belongs there. Like, I don't know that it belongs in the world that is like created by Disneyland. Like, I think it makes more sense to put it in California Adventure. But again, you have the limit of space and like how far you can push out all those boundary lines and like such a compact California square. So
right. I'm 100% with you on that. Totally.
So let's shift over to Magic Kingdom. What do you think some of the strengths of Magic Kingdom are?
Yeah, so I mean, we're talking about this. So I think the nice thing about Magic Kingdom is when the Imagineers have some crazy idea and they want to add something, they have the space to do it. They're like, well, we can just we own all this land. Let's just like push this out just a little bit and like stick this here. They're not necessarily being like, what could we take away? Or like, what can we replace? There's been so many good examples of things that they've added and not had to take away. I mean, I'm pretty sure, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, the like Beauty and the Beast castle restaurant was, it didn't replace anything. It was just like, I'm going to plop this on this like empty piece of land here and we're just going to expand the perimeter of the park. Like, so many examples of that I think it's really nice. I don't think on that flip side, like, people aren't as tied, I don't think, to Magic Kingdom. So even if they did have to replace something, I don't know how upset people would get. But
I feel like the only thing people have been really upset about is Mr. Toad.
Oh, so upset about Mr. Toad.
Yeah.
Which
They
is
get
crazy.
really mad. Yeah, it's just Mr. Toad. I mean, it's a good ride, but I mean, it's Mr. Toad.
Out of everything, like, that's what you're gonna like your steak.
Okay.
For
out of the loop, what happened with Mr. Toad?
The Winnie the Pooh ride in Fantasyland replaced Mr. Toad in Magic Kingdom.
And people are upset about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I pass no judgment.
Yeah, there was like a big protest about it, and then they're also kind of mad that the original Snow White dark ride in Fantasyland went away.
Yeah. I mean, they updated. I hadn't been on it since they updated. I didn't think. We went on in Disneyland, and I was like, "Oh, this is much less scary."
I haven't been on it yet, and I really want to go on it.
Okay. It reminds me a lot of Mine Train now, like a lot of
Okay.
the characters and stuff. I mean, obviously
Cool.
a roller coaster, but there's a lot of scenes that I was like, oh, that's from Mine Train. But it's
Cool.
definitely not as scary. So
Cool.
maybe that
I'm
was
excited.
the thing. Yeah. Yeah. And then another strength, I think Magic Kingdom is the people mover.
Yes.
Waves. I'm just so sad. Like I went through the whole thing in Disneyland where it was like the people mover and then the rocket rods that never worked. And then now it's just the black or the gold track that sits around and they have the like nostalgic rocket rod just sitting up there sadly. Like
Yes.
I remember waiting in line for so long for the rocket rods and just it broke down. And
Constantly.
some sort of pass. And then we could come back and we finally got on it, but around every turn you could just tell the ride was struggling just to get those cars. So I really like the people mover. It's one of my favorites at Magic Kingdom.
Oh, it's a good one.
Strength.
Yeah, that is totally a strength.
And what about weaknesses?
So I have a very specific weakness for Magic Kingdom. I think the speed and the way that the seats are configured on Space Mountain is awful.
Wow, that is very specific.
I think it's so much slower than Disneyland Space Mountain. I think it's like anticlimactic. I hate where the camera is like positioned. Like nobody's looking or excited. It's like before the ride even starts and it's like, let's take your picture here in this awkward like place. It's the worst. Like Space Mountain is one of my favorite rides. And I'm like, this was your second iteration. This is not good. It's supposed to be better.
Supposed to improve.
And you know what's funny? They made that one of the paid Lightning Lane ones, like not included in Genie Plus.
Oh, that's silly. I would not pay
Yeah.
that.
No.
Like this is not a fun ride.
No, I'm surprised Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is one of them. I'm surprised they didn't go with Splash Mountain for the other one because it gets so hot. That's a really popular ride. So I don't know.
Been a lot smarter, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're switching it. Maybe they'll do it for Tron and they'll take it away from Space Mountain.
Well, my theory is when Tron comes up, they're probably going to take Space Mountain down for refurbishment because it really needs a refurbishment. And then Tron will be the second Lightning Lane.
When is Tron supposed to open?
That's a good question.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Wasn't it supposed to be like October a couple months ago and it just got delayed?
You know, I think before COVID, that was probably their plan for the big 50th thing. And then, COVID. But, it came out that like Universal could have built Velocicoaster again in this amount of time. And what is Disney doing, right? So, like, what's their excuse at this point? Universal got it done. So, I don't know.
Well, I'll be excited when it does open.
Me too.
Yeah, I'll be excited too. Well, I really like your very specific weakness of Magic Kingdom, and I'm right there with you. Next season, we're going to talk about. Well, we'll get to it. Never mind. I'll save that for later this episode. I don't want to spoil anything. But speaking of rides, we know that many of the rides in Disneyland and Magic Kingdom are similar, very similar. Some of them are exact replicas. Are there any that stand out to you where one coast does it better than the other?
I mean, I just used my biggest one, I think, is Space Mountain. Yeah, I mean, all the things I kind of just said. Like, I don't like the way the seats are. I don't like the camera, where the camera is. I think the beginning's anticlimactic. I think it's slower than the Space Mountain to Disneyland. It's just not my fave. I remember getting on it. It had been a really long time since we had gone to Disney World. We went for our honeymoon. I remember getting on it, being so excited. And at the end, I was like, that's the worst Space Mountain version ever. Like, why is that so bad? I don't remember it being terrible. And my husband's like didn't grow up going to Disney, so he's like, I don't think it was that bad. And I was like, it's terrible. Next time we go to Disneyland, like just compare. It's not the same. But I think, I mean, most of the, at least to me, I think the outside of Haunted Mansion I prefer in Disneyland. I like just the theming of the outside of the building. I think it looks better. Mm-hmm. I think it also fits in more with like the New Orleans style down there. Mm-hmm. But other than that, really it is just Space Mountain for me. That just really bothers me.
It really grinds your gears.
Yeah.
You know what? There's two things I think that Space Mountain in Florida does better. One, I really like that it has astronauts inside. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I like that the people mover goes inside.
Yes. But the track at Disneyland went inside Space Mountain, didn't it?
I think it did. Well, I think I can't remember if it just went through the queue or if it went through the ride. It's been it's been like 20 some odd years at this point.
I think it did, because I have this very distinct memory of going on it at Disneyland while they were doing a refurb and all the lights were on. And I remember
cool.
seeing the track for the first time and being like, oh, I don't think I would get on that if I saw that in the light all the time. Like how close the tracks are on top of each other and just how high it is in that building. I was like, wow, that's a lot different than what it feels like.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, for sure.
But I did forget about the astronauts. That is, I mean, I guess that's fine, but I still stand by all my You've also been on it, I feel like probably more than I have at this point, and more recently.
You know what? I haven't been on it since before I was pregnant, so it's been a couple years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while. I haven't been on it. Yeah, it's been a couple. I think July 2020 was the last time I was on it when we were here. Yeah, because I waited. We were here the week the park reopened, and I remember waiting like 5 minutes at like 1 p.m. And I was like, this is never going to happen again.
Never. That's lovely.
And sure enough, it's never happened again.
It's very busy down there.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be the off season.
Yeah, it's not. No, there is no off season.
All right. So with all of that laid out, Nicole, it's time for your final showdown. Does one side stand out above the crowd to you?
Yes, I am a Disneyland person, like through and through. Yeah. I mean, I already said a lot of the reasons, but I think the other big thing for me, just like Walt Disney World as a whole, feels much more theme park, like traditional theme park to me than Disneyland. Whereas like Disneyland feels like a special place where I might forget that I'm in a theme park. Whereas like Disney World, I'm like, this is a theme park. Like this is a very large theme park, but it's a theme park. I also think the people that go to Disneyland, because a lot of them are annual pass holders, take a pride in the park too. Like they take care of it, they clean up. It's like something that was passed down through their families. So like it just feels nicer. Where I remember being at Walt Disney World and watching people, like, I'm like, there's a garbage right there, and you just like toss your stuff on the ground. Like, why don't you take your garbage to the trash? It's like they're everywhere. Like there's one at least like a foot from you in any direction at any given time. So I think people just also like take care of Disneyland more, which might play into the like also feeling a little bit more like home.
Right. That's a good point. I haven't thought about like that warm fuzzies that you get at Disneyland, and I don't think I get it as much here at Walt Disney World.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do. I think it's the community. Like there's a community that has built itself around the Disneyland park. And I think that's something very unique and special to that park versus any of their other parks globally, I think. I mean, we've been to Paris and it definitely didn't feel like that either. Like it felt like a theme park. It was cool. I was very excited, but it ultimately didn't have that like warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah, that's interesting. Huh, that's a good perspective. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And before you head off, is there any like social media or anything that you'd like to plug?
Sure. You can, I like both Alli and CJ. I am a big Disney fan. And so I have a Disney themed Instagram. So you can find me at DisneyGirlNF. CJ has also been on my podcast, so The Magical Map, and you can check her out as well.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great talking to Nicole. Following episode 4, we talked about Hollywood Studios and California Adventure, and we just had one thing that we wanted to add here is that we miscalculated the number of festivals that California Adventure has. We mentioned 2, the Festival of the Holidays and the Food and Wine Festival, but we forgot to mention Lunar New Year just a couple of weeks ago. So there are 3 festivals at California Adventure.
Yeah, so that actually puts them pretty close in the total amount of festivals compared with Epcot, But I think if you're looking at the number of weeks of festivals, Epcot has them completely beat. Anyways, okay, so we're moving on to hotels. And in the hotel battles, episode 7, we both agreed that Walt Disney World blows Disneyland out of the water when it comes to hotels and hotel experiences. But we asked another friend of ours, another Nicole, how she feels about hotels at the Walt Disney World Resort and Disneyland Resorts. And not only is she a fellow Disney nerd, but she is also a DVC member. We are not DVC members, to clarify, but Nicole is. So she has a lot of hotel stays under her belt. So here's Nicole. Let's hear her opinion. All right, welcome to the podcast, Nicole. Today we're going to talk about hotels on both coasts, Walt Disney World and Disneyland Resorts. So first, let's start out by talking about what hotels you've visited on the West Coast and the East Coast, as far as Disney hotels go.
Sure thing. Hi, it's so nice to be here. I have stayed at a lot of resort hotels on Disney property in Walt Disney World. Not so many off property. The Sheraton Vistana is the one that's popping into mind. And then on the West Coast in Disneyland, I've stayed in mainly the Marriott related hotels because we're Marriott Rewards members.
Nice.
Except for the Westin, that's the newest one. I think it's there on Catella. So that would include the Residency Inn by Marriott at Anaheim, Anaheim Marriott, Sheraton Park Hotel at the Anaheim Resort, Sheraton Garden Grove, Anaheim South. Yeah, and so those are the off-property ones. As far as the Disneyland Resort, all 3 of them, Grand Californian, the Disneyland Hotel in Paradise Pier, and a whole bunch in Florida.
Nice.
So do you want me to run through the list?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay, so the Grand Floridian, Contemporary, the Bay Lake Tower, and the regular hotel. Polynesian, again, same DVC and the regular hotel. The Boardwalk Resort, the Yacht Club, Beach Club, Saratoga Springs, the Riviera, and the Swan and Dolphin. And I've stayed in both towers. I think that's everything.
Nice. And then for Disneyland, did you have a favorite that you stayed at over there?
Absolutely. It's hands down the Grand Californian. It's how can you beat basically being in the park?
Yeah.
Like even if you don't have a park view, which would be amazing, it's like 5 minutes or less, and you can just run back, drop your stuff off, take a quick nap, whatever you got to do, and then you're like refreshed and ready to go again. So that is worth more than pretty much anything in resorts.
I totally agree with you. It's a really, I think that's the closest hotel of any, like, including Walt Disney World. I think it's just the closest property out of all the resorts here in the United States. What about Walt Disney World? Do you have a favorite there?
Oh, I'm going to have to pick 2 favorites.
Okay.
And that's going to depend like kind of what our goals are for the trip. So if we are very Epcot heavy and festival heavy, that kind of thing, then I pick the Riviera because of its proximity, or the Beach Club, depending on, how we're going to pay for the stay.
Mm-hmm.
And then for just a regular Disney experience, it's going to be the Grand Floridian.
Nice. I really want to stay at the Boardwalk or the Beach Club. Those are like my top 2. I really want to stay there. We love walking around the boardwalk, and I look at these hotels. I'm like, this is where I would stay.
It's definitely a really awesome place. And it's one of our most favorite places on property. Just that whole boardwalk area with the performers and the vibe. And it's just so cool.
And then you have a stay coming up soon, somewhere brand new. Where is that?
Somewhere out of this world.
Yeah.
We're gonna be on the new Galaxy Star Cruiser, and I'm trying really hard not to look at any of the reviews and photos. So that's gonna be in May.
Oh, that's coming up really soon.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. So
We're so excited.
Yeah, you'll have to share all about that. I'm reading all the reviews right now, and I'm like, this sounds really interesting. I'm excited for like real people to go experience it and not just the media people, because it's hard to tell what it's really like. So I'm excited to hear from real people.
Right. And it's kind of like we're not attaching it to any other kind of Disney part. We're just going there, we're doing the Star Cruiser, and we're going home.
Okay.
And so it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be a whole different way to pack, because when we booked it, they were like, okay, you're going to have quests and things to do and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to have to want to like dress up like I belong in this
Yeah.
universe, so that I can legit interact with everybody that's going to be there. So
That's so cool.
going to be interesting.
That's really cool.
I am going to want to hear all about that.
I'm so excited.
So one thing that makes you unique here and gives you a unique perspective is that you're a DVC member. When did you become a DVC member?
We became DVC members in 2015, and at that particular month, I guess they were only doing it for a couple of weeks. It was the tail end of them selling at the Floridian and the very beginning, like the first 2-3 days of them selling at the Poly. So we picked up points at both of those locations, and kind of, I think we added on one time after that to the Floridian before they were like, we're not going to sell anymore. We're like, and then I was like, we're not going to add any more points unless they make, Beach Club a DVC or Yacht Club or whatever. And then they made the Riviera, which is technically I guess, Epcot hotel. I don't know.
Mhm. It's kind of in between.
Yeah. But we write the Skyliner, and it's close enough for me. So
Yeah. Okay, so this is a really hard decision. I mean, Alli and I kind of went back and forth on this, but between Disneyland Resort and Walt Disney World Resort hotels, which one do you think offers better perks and amenities to hotel guests?
it pains me to say this out loud because I'm a Disneyland girl. But I think for resorts, Disney World has the leg up just because they have so much more space and opportunities to just do whatever they want.
Yeah. And I think we kind of landed on the same side, and Alli and I, we're Disneyland people too. So, and it's hard for us to say that as well.
I felt like kind of cringy saying it.
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing, but you think about everything that they can offer with the exercise classes and the s'mores and all that, like they just offer so much more,
Yeah, definitely. But I did do that. They started having fitness classes again at the Californian, and I did the $25 walk around California Adventure before the park open thing. And it's actually pretty cool. I mean, you can't take your phone with you because they say it's backstage time.
Right. Yeah.
Which you would know about, CJ. I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because they'll like drive trucks around and like clean stuff, before the park opens. So yeah.
But it was really cool. So we kind of basically walked all around, but where they have the viewing area for World of Color?
Yes.
They had the guys working on the little water and light things, and they were playing their music really loud. And then they saw us coming, and they put on the theme for Rocky, and it was
oh, that's so cool.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it was like magic moment. Yay.
That is so cool. I would totally pay the $25 to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that sets Disney hotels apart, no matter what coast you stay on. Like you don't get that opportunity if you stay not in a Disney hotel.
So speaking of Disney hotels, which coast do you think offers a better Disney hotel experience? Theming, location, variety, transportation, anything.
Right. So, okay. So I think pure Disney experience, it's going to be Disneyland because they only have so many hotels and resorts areas, so they have to really make it Disney. Obviously, the Disneyland Hotel is going to have all that history in it, and the Grand Californian is going to be, right on downtown Disney and having views of the park. So that's all very Disney. But then I was thinking, Saratoga Springs, I don't know if you guys have stayed there before, but it almost doesn't feel like you're in a Disney park or a Disney
I know what
resort.
you mean. Yeah, I've stayed there before. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think they made an interesting choice when they were designing and theming a lot of their resorts, because a big family might go and maybe not everybody's into Disney, and so that might appeal to some of those groups or some of those folks who don't really want to be like drowning in Disney all day long, which I don't understand.
I don't get those people either.
I know. But I mean, the Riviera is a little bit like that too. I mean, there are nods to Disney and they show him vacationing on the Riviera and all that stuff. But if you want to kind of ignore the little details, you don't really feel like you're on Disney property a whole lot. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I see what you mean. Like Disneyland hotels are more Disney, 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 Disney. And Walt Disney World is like they're themed hotels, but not necessarily Disney themed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe that does have to do with space being a factor. Like you can go out into the woods and be away from Disney and find a really nice resort, you know?
Right. Exactly.
That's an interesting perspective. And Disneyland does have that history to it too. And I feel like if they ignored that history, I think people would rebel, you know?
Oh, I would stage a protest
Yeah.
right
If
there.
they just ditched the 1950s theme of Disneyland Hotel, people would be very, very upset.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure.
Just like that and the diorama on the train of the dinosaurs, I'm gonna stop everything and protest.
Yeah, if they get rid of that, that's the end of the world for a lot of people.
Yeah. There's like no way.
Let's talk about the dining a little bit too. Dining is a big part of the experience of the resorts for sure. I mean, you can not step foot in the parks, you know, at Walt Disney World and just spend a day at the resort and hanging out at the restaurants. Which parks do you think offer, or which resorts do you think offer better dining experiences?
I'm going to have to say Florida, just because of the sheer number of choices that they have. And it seems like they're always kind of adding or revising something because they have the space to do it. So, but even if you're say you're just staying at one resort, the Yacht Club, for example, I mean, they have a quick service place, they have a couple of restaurants, they have a couple of bars, they have fine dining, and you don't have to leave the resort. So even though you're really close to Epcot, maybe you don't buy a park ticket that day, or you're just going to give your feet a break. You don't really have to leave. I find that it would be kind of hard to do that in California at any of the hotels. I mean, sure, they have the little shops and the quick service places and some fine dining, but I think they're really lacking in that area, especially since they closed Steakhouse 55.
Yeah.
Broke my heart.
I know. And what's weird is they haven't really announced anything for that. And I feel like, Walt Disney World has been reopening things that have been closed, and like Tron is coming and Guardians is coming, and then Steakhouse 55 is gone. And it's like, well, what's happening with that space?
Yeah. I mean, I had always wanted to go to one of the teas over there. And of course,
I did too.
Never got there.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And they had the best breakfast. I'm just really sad about it.
I think we're really sad too. And it seems weird to me. We talked about it in our episode, the extended episode about hotels, about how that's a AAA 4 Diamond property and their only sit down option is Goofy's Kitchen.
Yeah. So maybe, I don't know if AAA is going to redo their ratings or something soon.
Yeah.
That's something it's important to us. I mean, one of the things that I try to do in all of my life is find magic everywhere, including in a restaurant. And I mean, I love Goofy's Kitchen, but it's not always the mood I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's a very high energy place. You don't always want that.
Kids, then it's a little like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming. Another big difference between the two coasts is transportation from the hotels to the parks. Which one do you think does it better?
I mean, can you count walking as transportation? I guess.
Absolutely.
Like they don't really have to do anything, but you're just there. So obviously that's, by the size of Disneyland Resort, it's going to be easier to just walk everywhere. I'm super sad that I didn't get to go to the Disneyland Hotel when the monorail still went there. So I wish they did that because it's a long walk to the Disneyland Hotel at the end of the day.
At the end of the day when you're tired, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the morning, it's all great, and you're walking past Starbucks, and you're like, oh, hey, there's another one.
More caffeine.
And then at the end of the day, it's just like, oh, I want to die.
For sure.
So,
for sure.
But then, you go to the other coast, and then you have to deal with the buses. And I like the buses. I'll do it if I have to, but it's like I'm always the person that you don't want to pick the line at the grocery store or the line to get in the park because it's always the wrong one. We always miss the bus, and then we always wait like 30 minutes for the next bus. So it's just, no. That's why we strategically picked our DVC resorts to be either monorail or walking / Skyliner. Yeah.
There was a strategy there.
Definite strategy.
I like it. Very smart. All right. Well, with that, it's time for the final showdown. Overall,
I'm gonna pause you there because I do actually have one more question.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wanna actually circle back to talking
Okay.
about being a DVC member.
Sure.
Do you think that was worth it?
Absolutely, I do. So I already mentioned like we have like strategic preferences about where we stay. And honestly, the cost, if you pay cash for any of the monorail resorts or even any of the ones on the Epcot, they're really expensive. And I'm looking at, the cost of the DVC and the cost of paying cash for as frequently as we go to Florida, which is sometimes like 4 or 5 times a year. And I'm like, obviously the points are going to do it because I don't care how much money anyone ever makes. That's a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely worth it. And I would never stay at the Floridian or the Poly just for cash.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
This might be a personal question, and you can tell Alli if you want her to edit it out.
Okay.
When they release the new DVC units at the Disneyland Hotel, are you going to buy points there or TBD?
We're not. We've already decided. We talked about it, and we're not because it's already a long walk back for us.
Yeah.
At the end of a long day. So you know where the big hat is?
Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
it's going to be even
It's
past
like
that.
even past that.
Yeah.
And you're already walking 2 city blocks to get to the Disneyland Hotel, and then they want you to walk another like 5 minutes. That's a big no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they
Yeah.
were on a wait list for 5 years for points at the Californian, I think they probably threw that list out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yikes. Huh. I bet you the Disneyland Hotel is going to fill up real fast. Something tells me.
So. Yeah. And I've heard of DVC members who try to get in at the Californian. And basically what they do, it's crazy. They have to get up like right when they open, and it's whatever coast time, 4 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever, for us in California. And you get 1 day. And then you do it the next day, and you get the next day. And then and then you do like a wait list for the ones you don't get. So you could potentially be room hopping like every day.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, wow.
I think there's only 71 units there, I think. Maybe 76. It's less than 80 units. I remember that.
That's wow. I wish they could figure out a way to expand that somehow.
I know. And they already added that on later after the hotel was built. So they're like really out of room there. If they could like make it go up, that would be nice.
Or like take over like where the movie theater is. I mean, I used to live in Southern California. People aren't going to downtown Disney to watch a movie.
No, but they're demolishing the movie theater for the downtown Disney expansion. So that's not an option anymore. Yeah.
There's got to be a way. They're smart. Those Imagineers are smart.
Or they could demolish the Paradise Pier Hotel and turn some of those rooms into DVC. We've talked about ideas for the Paradise Pier Hotel on the show because it's outdated.
It is outdated. Yeah.
It needs help.
It does.
All right, it's time for the final showdown. Which one do you think is better, Disneyland hotels or the Walt Disney World hotels?
Do I have to pick one?
Yes. We picked, so you have to pick.
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm gonna say Disney World. It pains me to say it.
I know.
It's just the variety of options, the variety of theming, what kind of feel do you want, what kind of amenities do you want, where do you want to be? It's just, and then the dining options that all go with it, which are important to us. So yeah, I'm gonna say Florida.
That's where we fell too. I mean,
Yeah.
You've got anything from like campsites to very basic rooms to ridiculously large hotel rooms and bungalows on the water. You can really get anything at Walt Disney World. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the history pulls me into Disneyland too.
Yes.
I feel you.
And the location of the Californian can't be beat.
Right? Yeah, that's what Alli likes too.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. This was really enlightening conversation.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Before we say goodbye, where can people find you on the socials?
I am Disney Surgeon on Instagram, which is my main platform, and I also have a Facebook page. And I'm trying to figure out how to get back my TikTok name, so hopefully will be coming soon. But yes, definitely on Instagram, you'll find me at Disney Surgeon.
All right, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
That was really great chatting with Nicole and hearing her opinion, especially from somebody who's a DVC member, which is something that you and I don't have that experience doing. So let's move on to episode 8, where we talked about other things to do in Central Florida and Southern California. So we were split on this one of the, I think 2 episodes where we were split. But one thing that we didn't really talk about was airports and what airports you can use to access the resorts. And this is kind of an area where it's really split. And if you're traveling to Central Florida, really you don't have that many options. It's really just MCO, which is Orlando International Airport. The other airport that's nearby is Sanford, which is about 50 miles from Walt Disney World. But there's only 4 or 5 airlines that fly into it. And it's kind of the weird ones. Suncoast, I think, is one of them. They're very small airlines that fly into it. Another option, I guess, is Miami or something like that. If you're flying, I don't know, from somewhere else and you want to drive through Florida to get here on some strange Florida road trip.
Yeah, experiencing some of those roadside Florida attractions you talked about. Maybe you can find Gator Sam's.
Exactly.
In Southern California, you do have a lot more airport choices. So there's John Wayne Airport, there's LAX, of course, there's Long Beach Airport. You can fly into San Diego, you can fly into Burbank, you can fly into Ontario. There's a lot of airports nearby.
Yeah, and I feel like that makes more sense because, I don't know, I just feel like I don't want to say there's more to do in California, but I feel like people spend more time outside of Disneyland when they're vacationing to California. That it might make sense to fly into San Diego because you can go spend time at the San Diego Zoo or SeaWorld or something and then go up to Disneyland,
Yeah, and I do feel like Southern California is a lot more urban than Central Florida, so
Yes.
it makes sense for there to be a lot more airports.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And just a heads up, if you're planning to vacation to Southern California, make sure you shop around these different airlines. There's a big, big price difference between the different airports and the different airlines. Really, really do your research.
Yeah, there's a lot of travel sites they have a little checkbox that says include nearby airports. So if you're flying to Southern California, plug one of those airports in and check that box that says to include nearby airports, and you might find a better deal.
Yeah, for sure.
With that, it is time for the finale, final showdown.
Woo!
Looking at all of our opinions throughout the 9 previous episodes, the overall winner this season of Walt Disney World versus Disneyland Resort was Walt Disney World.
Ta-da!
So there were some standout episodes where Disneyland was the clear winner in Disneyland versus Magic Kingdom. We agreed that the San Diego Zoo would be a better animal experience than Animal Kingdom. And then we had a disagreement on California Adventure versus Hollywood Studios, where I took the Hollywood Studios route and CJ took the Disney California Adventure route.
Yeah, and we had some disagreement on Genie Plus and ticket types. That episode had some disagreement here and there. And I just want to clarify on Animal Kingdom and San Diego Zoo. We're not saying that Animal Kingdom has bad animal experiences.
Oh, no, it has fantastic animal experiences.
Right. We're saying if you're going just to see animals and you don't care about storytelling and theming,
rides.
Yeah, and rides, then you want to go to San Diego Zoo.
Yeah.
If you care about the whole package, then you want to go to Animal Kingdom. They're both very good institutions. They just offer very different things.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for joining us for our season 1 finale of the Park2Park podcast. It's been a lot of fun this season. We kind of took an overarching view of Walt Disney World Resort versus Disneyland Resort, the outside areas, the different parks, really kind of a little bit of everything. And we'd really like you to leave us some feedback.
Please.
We've heard from you guys in comments and private messages to each of us, and some of our friends have texted us and things like that. But give us a like, subscribe, follow us. We're on pretty much all social media as Park2Park Pod with the number 2. You can also email us at park2parkpod@gmail.com, again with the number 2. Now, next season, drum roll. We were debating what to do for next season, and we were kind of going a gazillion different directions, and we knew we wanted to do rides. So what we decided to do was pre-1971 attractions. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, but CJ and Alli, Walt Disney World Resort opened in 1971. And while that is true, there are rides at Walt Disney World Resort that existed before 1971. Now, what I mean by that is like It's a Small World, for example, exists at Magic Kingdom, but it opened in Magic Kingdom at 1971, opened at Disneyland it opened at the World's Fair in 1964, and then moved to Disneyland at a later date. So the rides that exist in Walt Disney World now that were open before 1971 at Disneyland is what we're going to be talking about. So like Small World, Pirates, Haunted Mansion, Main Street USA, the castles, all that kind of stuff is what we're going to be talking about. So stay tuned for next season. We're going to start recording very soon, probably in the next few weeks here. And yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. And we will have room for special guests. So if you want to be a guest, listen up. We will be recruiting.
Yeah. If you are an expert on one of the Pirates of the Caribbean rides, for instance, add us on Twitter. We allegedly have an account there.
Allegedly. Or if you are only an expert on one of them and you want to be an expert on the other one, book yourself a trip to the other coast.
We are not sponsored.
Become an expert on the other one, and then come on the podcast and tell us which one you think is better.
If you have something to say, we want to hear it. Probably. Yep. Allegedly.
Yes. Allegedly. And that is all for season 1 of Park2Park Podcast. Thank you for joining us. We will see you for season 2, episode 1, where we will be talking about Main Street and I think the castle. I don't know. We might not do the castle for season 2, episode 1. We'll see.
I mean, it's not on the outline that I'm looking at right now, so I don't know.
We'll decide at a later date.
You'll find out when the episode comes out.
That's
listeners.
Right.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.